7 seconds or so and go ahead.
All right, I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Finance for March 16th, 2021. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do we have any public comment? Hearing no public comment, I would like to make a motion that we go to the Candlewood Lake water line resolution.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Cool. All right. Is there any discussion more on this? I've looked at the numbers. They seem to track like Brianna had said. I see now on line AB and AC 49, I can see where the 240 comes into play. 160 and the 80 plus the 1699. So that's where we had lost the 240 before. I don't quite understand lines, and Steve, maybe you could say line 58, AB and AC. What are those numbers?
That was an analysis of if it was less or more, right?
Okay.
Total houses.
So we're going to go with the above assumption, the 1699750, the 80, and the 160. Do you have any?
What are you saying? The amount that we need to approve just to cover everything is the 19.
Yep, the 1939750.
Right.
Yes. All right. Any discussions? All right, hearing none. I'd like to make a motion that we waive the reading of the full resolution entitled Resolution Appropriating $1,939,750 for the planning, design, construction, and reconstruction of the Candlewood Lake Road Water Main Project and authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $1,939,750 of bonds, notes, and obligations of the town in the same amount to finance the appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes, Steve.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to,
Well, your motion was to waive the reading.
Reading of the motion, not to
It's
pass.
part of the motion if you listen to it. The waiving and the motion are the same thing he said.
Okay.
we good to move on, Mark, or you want to talk?
I would have abstained from the vote had I known we were voting on the actual vote. As I did not have time to fully read it. While I trust you guys, I'm just going to abstain. I'm not voting no.
Okay,
But I don't want to make you go through all that rigmarole again.
how do we handle it right? I mean, you know the rules. How do we handle it right?
Probably just call for a revote. I think it's the simplest way. Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, you can do that. You can just rescind your existing motion and then go over and do it again.
I was just trying not to have him read it all again.
Oh, that's part of what we got to do.
But here's what he did. You know, Glenn Rooney, made a motion to waive the reading and then named it. And then said we should then go on to approval. This is what you read exactly, right, Glenn?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll rescind my motion and we'll make another motion. I'd like to rescind the motion that I just made and make this motion. I'd like to make a motion that we waive the reading of the full resolution entitled Resolution Appropriating $1,939,750 for the planning, design, construction, and the reconstruction of Candlewood Lake Road Water Main Project and authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $1,939,750 of bonds, notes, and obligations of the town in the same amount to finance the appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion? We'll have a vote then. All those in favor? Aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions?
I
Thank you.
just didn't get time to read it today, Steve, the information you provided.
All right. So we're on to now the budget discussions. I think we left off with capital last night.
Wait a minute, you have to then go to the second part of that, Glenn, and approve it. Keep on reading. Can you put that back up, Marsh?
Hold on, I had pulled it up from an email and I
had it.
Okay, I'll do it. And then I make a motion to adopt said resolution that Ricky Ramos seconded the motion. That's what you have here.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
I don't know that that made any sense to me.
So originally, the first motion was to waive the reading of the bond resolution.
Right.
And the description of the resolution was in there, all the detail. Now it's to approve the actual resolution to move forward.
But he read that Ricky seconded a motion.
Yeah, to waive the reading. Marcia, can you bring that up again? You'll see there's two motions that need to be made.
I had the Excel sheet up. Let me find the motion
There it is.
that,
Can we share? Can I share? Can you have me share?
all right, so Ricky made a motion to waive the reading. Let me pull up this email that, and share my screen. All right. Someone,
I made the motion.
To
um,
waive.
Glenn made a motion to waive the reading of the full resolution.
Right.
With that title.
Ricky seconded it. It was
Ricky
voted.
seconded and you voted.
Right. Now you just make a motion to adopt the resolution. You waive the reading, then you adopt the resolution.
So that's what I thought. That's what I was, the only part I was trying to abstain from. So,
Yeah.
okay.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt said resolution
Yeah.
for the
I'll
Candlewood
second
Lake
it.
water line.
Okay, Glenn seconds.
Discussion. Hearing none. Let's take a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining?
Aye.
Okay. Now we good, Steve?
Yep, you're done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now let's go back to the budget process. I think we got through things and we left it off through in the main body of things to capital projects. So Marcia, if you could pull that up if you don't mind.
Sorry, are we just going to do education afterwards?
Oh, we could do education if you want to do education first, Ricky.
I'm good either way. I mean, just
Oh, let's do education.
wanna.
I'm good.
just to wrap up the expenses. That was the only thing
Yeah.
that was left.
I like that idea, Rick.
All right. I had a conversation with Rosa today. The ESSER grant, they're comfortable with 95,000 that they're gonna find it with the ESSER grant that Dr. Barilla is putting together for them. They asked their department heads to go back through all of their numbers, and they feel that they can deal with 20,000 of less than the 44 to get them whole. So they need 25,000 to get them back to where they feel they are comfortable. So
25 back or 25 less than the 44?
25 back,
They should need 24 back.
24 back. Yes, they're comfortable with $20,000 that they can find in their departments.
That's good.
I mean, they did some hard work. Obviously, they're cutting down their budgets like everybody. If they have a need, they're going to go through the process. We talked about the process of going through the Board of Selectmen, and then it comes to the Board of Finance if they have something comes up that they have a need for the money. So that's where we got to. So would anybody like to talk about it, discuss it?
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty happy with the budget they did. I think they did a very thorough job. Eileen, thank you for attending on our behalf their meetings and keeping us informed. And personally, I'm good with giving them another $24,000. We'll find it somewhere or not, but I think we give them the 24.
Ricky,
Yeah, I agree.
Eileen?
Yeah, I'm fine giving them back some money.
She was comfortable with that number. We had a long conversation, like I say, and and again, you know, if something came up, like we've talked about, we have a process in place, and Steve knows the process, that they come to the Board of Selectmen, they ask for a special appropriation, then it comes to us, right, Steve?
That's correct. And it's worked well in the past.
Mhm.
So this, she said there'd be no pushback from them at all. They're happy to go back like they did the exercise again. Their department heads were comfortable at this level. It wasn't a stretch for them. And if they get more insurance money, she was going to talk to Steve and Marcia on that as well, because they don't know what they're getting back, if they are going to get back some, but they would be willing to let us know. Obviously, by then, the budget's already in place, because I think it's April, correct? We find out that number?
Yeah.
So the budget would be in place, but the information has been, communication has been quite good lately with them on that side, I believe.
You know,
Yeah,
I'm
and
very
if they
comfortable. If they're saying this and Rose is saying this, I think we've come a long way in the relationships between the boards. And I think that's a very good compromise.
And
I
you
agree.
said, good, sorry, Mark.
And if they do realize a savings on the insurance line or anywhere really, well, they keep it, and that'll be the first. I would imagine that'll be the first thing they spend when they run over, inevitably, probably run over on special ed. So that's fine.
Dan, you haven't weighed in yet.
Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, absolutely. Given everything we've been through over the last year, the schools and the budgeting process has been so good. My number one priority this season is to let the public vote on what the Board of Ed thinks they need. So yes, absolutely.
And I think they did the work this year. They really did the work. I mean, they went above and beyond. And when we asked them at the last meeting to go back and look one more time, Dr. Burrell and Rosa and the team took it upon themselves, and they did go back. So I think that that's the right thing to do. Brianna?
Oh, I'm fine with it. I think they've worked really hard, and I was very pleased with their numbers and their presentation, and I think we've all worked really well together this year, and I'm okay giving them back for sure.
Steve, you want to add?
No, I think this is a good compromise. It's almost, it's not much money, And they've done a good job at analyzing their budget. I mean, you saw all those questions that were asked and why is this here and why are we spending that? I'm very comfortable with their budget. So I think this is a very reasonable ask and I'd support it. I mean, I don't get a vote, but I would support it.
All right, Marcia, any input from your side?
Nothing from me.
All right, so I think we're all happy with where we stand on that. Like I say, they will be reaching out to us if they have insurance, like she told me. They're still hoping. There still may be some other savings as well, but they couldn't commit to it at the time of the budget. They're hoping and they're really looking at things. So like Mark said, I think that if they do have savings within their budget lines, we can utilize that if there's any overruns. I think the communication and the trust is there for that. So, all right. So everybody happy with education?
Good.
Sounds good. All right, let's go on to capital now, and then we'll circle back to our items from last night. So, all right, let's start at the top. The only thing in the top line is the assessor reevaluation reserve, 31,000, and that's something that we do every year, for the 5-year reevaluations, right, Steve? We put money away.
Yep, correct.
Okay.
Next year that will go up, I think, because we're starting to cycle again.
Number 1, the town emergency radio you took out. So the fleet vehicle replacement, we're replacing 2 vehicles. You took out the 3rd, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with that we're giving the police 2 cars? We usually give them 3. We removed it down to 1.
I have in my notes.
2.
Yeah, I have in my notes that chief agreed that 2 will suffice this year, so I'm fine.
Okay. Telephone radio recording. I think Chief explained that as well.
Yeah, it's day-to-day operating stuff.
Okay. The weapon replacement.
Sorry, can I just ask the vehicle replacement? Why is it on a 10-year? I thought we did those on 5.
No, it's in cash.
The 65,000. Oh, sorry, that was the one that was taken out.
That's the weapons. The weapon replacement is in the 10 year.
Sorry. I need a ruler.
Or a second screen.
Oh, new glasses would help. Okay, thanks.
So we have 120,000 in the cash and 65 in the 10-year financing for them, Eileen.
Yep.
We all good with that?
Yep.
Okay. We got the equipment reserve. Wait, where are we going here? Don't.
Oh, can I bring up the bowler wrap?
Yeah.
Seems like just a very, very minimal amount. But I was going to ask Steve, is there any way that we could, is there any way to cover that 12K in this current budget? It just seems like a silly thing to not include in the budget for them.
It's only 12,000. You know, we could put it in the operating budget where we tend to put smaller items in the operating budget, or we can just put it in the cash here and see where we end up. As you say, it's only 12,000. It's just so difficult to make these cuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I understand.
12 here and 15 there and 17 here.
Yeah, you made some cuts, but Chief was okay with that. He wasn't asking us to put that back in. I would imagine there's training that would have to go up if we buy those as well. It's a less than lethal weapon. It needs training and certification as well.
How much is in their outside reserve fund, Steve?
They have 180,000 now, I think.
So I thought we talked about when I first joined, and maybe my memory's going bad, that we like to keep that around 150.
Right.
If they're at 180, couldn't we use that for the 12,000?
They could if they want to.
They
would come
could.
to us.
I could ask the chief if he wants to use outside service for that. He hasn't suggested that, so that leads me to believe that this is not, it's number 7 on their list. I think it's a want to have, and I think they're probably going to need it in the future, given the Police Accountability Act, but it's not a critical need right now.
Yeah, let's maybe hold off on that one until we get to the end.
All right.
So Steve, can you ask Chief like what he plans on doing with his outside services fund, since we did talk about 150 as a level of comfort
Yeah.
years ago?
Yeah.
Can we use 30,000 somewhere? I mean, to offset some of his numbers. If not, I get it. It's their money, but I mean, if we can,
Yep.
Yeah, you could do the radio or a half a car or something. If they so chose.
I mean, because I think one year we even got it down to 100 even because they bought a
know.
few things.
The
So-
first year, 5 years ago, we brought it down to 50. Remember when we had the fund balance problem?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I remember. So you have a better memory than I do.
And they were good about that. We brought it down to 50 and then we brought it right back up.
Right. It does come back up from all the road stuff and everything else, right?
Yeah.
So
I think it's
let's
when
see
it
if we
got
can
guessing.
get 30,000 from them. That would help us out a lot, I think.
Okay.
All right, on to the fire. The bola is getting sidelined for now. You can highlight it, Marcia, if you don't mind, and then we can come back to it. All right, the first 2 line items are the reserves. Basically, they ask for 100,000 for most years, and we always seem to bring it down a little bit to try to keep our capital in line. So Steve,
Yep.
we're down to 75,000, which I'm okay with. Anybody else have a thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with it for this year. A lot of people still trying to recover from this pandemic.
I would say that if we were, playing around with that $12,000 idea with the BOLA wrap, maybe even though AEDs are line 7, I know those are important. So I don't know if that's something like if there was a toss up and a choice, I might push more towards funding that over a BOLA wrap. Because that's, batteries and stuff that they said, I think was at the end of its life, but my 2 cents and totally fine either way.
Yeah, I checked in on this. This is AEDs for personal vehicles. Now, we have AEDs on every fire truck. We have AEDs in 5 of our police vehicles. We have them in every one of our buildings. The question is the level of coverage that we need to get to, right?
Understood.
It would be great if we could have them in every single firefighters' cars, and a lot of them are going for their EMTs. These guys do a great job. It just becomes a question of how far can you go to support those things?
Fair point.
All right, highlight that one, Marcia, please.
And I'm not sure I'm comfortable adding much in at all. So we'll see what everybody thinks later.
That's a good thing about this. It's interactive. We can add stuff, take it away, see where we end up.
Yep.
We're at, I think a very good increase right now in the mill rate. So that helps too.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, I wanted to swap the next 2. So the utility pickup, that we would put that one in and take out the vehicle stabilization. They said they could get the vehicle stabilization off of a grant.
Right. Agreed.
Okay.
But then it's either do we get the utility pickup or the first responder vehicle?
Yeah.
Well, they have the first responder
The
vehicle
higher-
as a 6, so
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Yep.
the priority.
Okay.
But we want to also take a look at Candlewood then, because they have a command vehicle that they've asked for 3 years.
Mhm.
Well, we're taking something off of their line to give them
Right.
something else on their line. It's
Better.
almost a swap in price.
I agree.
I don't know. I gotta,
However, is this the first time they've ever asked for the utility pickup truck and the vehicle stabilization equipment?
I know they've asked for a command vehicle before, or first responder vehicle.
they used their utility truck to become the command vehicle, I thought, didn't they? The center fire?
Yeah, I think that's correct. Right.
That's why they're looking to replace their utility pickup truck, because they utilized that to be a command vehicle, so now they need to replace it with the utility pickup truck.
Gotcha.
I'm
Okay.
noticing they have a 5-year life on the utility pickup. Is that because they're buying used?
I think they're putting in some of their money,
Yeah, they're putting.
is what I remember from the presentation.
So why is it a 5-year useful life?
Yeah. I mean, it's still going to last longer than 5 years.
I would hope.
I think all the
Right.
vehicles,
going to
the regular street vehicles are in as 5-year lives. We can
Oh,
make
Okay.
it 10 if you want. And that's just our depreciation schedules.
Yeah, and we did that primarily because the police cars are usually 4 or 5 years.
that makes sense. I mean, they're driving around all day long.
We keep these things forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what are we doing?
Eileen made a thing to swap them, so the swap was made right now, so we can see where we end up, Dan. I mean, nothing's been voted on yet,
Yep,
right?
good.
So this is just a suggested swap and see where we fall. How's
And
that?
honestly, I don't think we need to put the vehicle stabilization back in, even if we take the utility pickup
Right.
out, because they said they can get that with a grant, so there's no
Right.
reason for us to fund it.
So Marcia, if you could highlight that utility truck or whatever they're calling it. Thank you.
Now, have we found out more about the HVAC that we're gonna do 70,000 on it? Is that a real number? Steve, it wasn't, I know you didn't have a lot of time to put together your capital response to me.
Yeah,
Is that a real number?
I think it.
I
think
know.
they've gotten a bid for it. I think we have to go out to bid. I know I've been over there. I've seen it. The whole thing needs to be replaced. It's just a hodgepodge. And you know, they've talked about this for years, the problems they've had over there. So I don't think it would cost more than that. I think they're allowing room in there for any problems or issues or concerns they run into.
You know, Andy called me this weekend to give me an opportunity. I had a work emergency on Saturday, so I wasn't able to get there. Just seems like an awful lot of money. What they said was they hired an electrical engineer, and the electrical engineer told them what it might cost to have someone do it.
So Mark, you think it would be less? You're in the business.
I am. I can't, but not having seen it firsthand, I'm not comfortable cutting.
And
Had I had the opportunity to go there, I would have come up with a more reasonable number, but I just did not make it there.
can you make it there this week?
No, it's
Okay.
not by Thursday, you know. The only thing about it is if they don't need it, we don't borrow it.
Right, we don't spend the money, right?
That's so
Okay.
I don't know.
And this is a big enough project. We would get a design, go out to bid, make
Right.
sure that we get good pricing.
Right.
Okay. Any other on the center fire?
Yeah, the structures and stair chairs, how many are they talking about? I didn't,
9. Oh, no, not 9.
No, that's
These things are expensive. They have 3 ambulances, right? And they need them for each of their ambulances. And those striker things are really expensive.
because I know that we saw one demonstrated that I thought was new last year or the year before. But is that $48,000 for one? I mean, it says plural, but it doesn't, I don't have the support sheet out right now.
No,
quickly.
I think it's for all of them. I think it's for 3.
So then are they replacing existing ones? Because I know that they have one at Center Fire.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember
We're-
I'm trying to remember the conversation.
Just trying to find the capital projects.
Can I ask a question while you guys are looking for something?
Mhm.
The equipment reserve, is that for vehicles or just generally equipment?
That's for the fire trucks, the big fire
Okay.
trucks.
Okay. Because my question was, wonder, would it be worth, dropping down their equipment reserve to offset that number 2 utility truck for this year, and then the grant of the 26.5 is gone, and you drop down to 50, and then the 25, it's like an offset. It was just a thought.
Yeah, the equipment reserves for both Candlewood and Center are for the big $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 trucks, so that we don't get whacked with a bill for $1 million in one
I
year.
got it. Nope, makes sense. Thank you.
So Eileen, it looks like they've got your answer up on the screen.
Oh, thank you.
Power lifts are 12 years old, and they're
Oh,
at the end of their life and need to be replaced.
okay,
I'm
so
sorry,
2.
And it looks like it's just 2.
Mhm.
These things are expensive, I know that.
Is there a reason why this is the first year they're asking for them if they're at the end of their useful life? They weren't in last year's budget.
No, they weren't. My guess, I'm taking a guess, I'm thinking they were looking at them, they seem to be working fine, and now maybe they've had problems with them and trouble. If
Yeah,
they're
as soon
that
as the
old.
batteries start dying on anything like that,
Yeah,
it goes quick.
when I was talking to Lou and Andy, I was very comfortable with how they explained why they need that.
And you left them in, so it's cash. Okay,
Yeah, I left them in.
Okay.
all right. Any other questions on this section? Okay. On to Candlewood. So let's go to line 2. If we're given the center 29,000, we should consider putting in some kind of reserve for command vehicle for Candlewood. I mean, Candlewood always comes in under budget. They always have a very low operating. I don't think they've asked for this for a long time. I think if we give the one, we gotta be careful of making sure the others get.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather bond for the 63,000 than start a cash reserve.
Also, I felt like you said like we were swapping, we were taking out the vehicle stabilization for the utility pickup. So it was really only costing us 2,500, whereas there's nothing to really swap.
Yeah,
They've been
yeah.
asking for it for 3 years.
Yeah, that's
Very
it.
true.
Well,
I agree
I
with
could
you.
also go with the utility pickup that was 29 grand. They're kicking in more than half. They've raised funds to buy more than half of that themselves. The Candlewood, they're asking for the whole amount. But if we do it, I agree with Ricky. I'd put it in a 10-year bonding.
No, I thought they said that it was 85,000 was the true cost.
Yes, this is just our cost, the 60.
Yeah, they're kicking in some of it.
So they're
Maybe not
kicking in
half.
some. Okay.
And also remember, they kicked in almost a huge amount of their reserves for
On the
the new boat.
I'd like to put it in. I agree in the 10-year financing.
You're
You can
starting to
highlight
add up.
that.
We are adding up quick.
I know.
Where we get to the fun part.
On the next line, I want to take 10,000 out. My reasoning behind that is the quote that Steve sent us was 15,000 was the quote to move the asbestos. 10,000 was put in case there's extra costs.
Oh,
We could cover those extra costs with our contingency if there really are extra costs, and that comes out of the cash capital line.
Yep.
So I'd like to take the 10,000 out with them being approved to go ahead and do the job. And if it goes above the 15, and Steve, you can pipe in.
Yep, I agree with you. That's a good idea.
Anybody else have a thought on that?
I'm okay with
That's a
that.
really good plan.
I mean, we're gonna let them do it. If they go over to 15,000, they come to us for the contingency fund, right? They're just gonna go out to bid. They're gonna get it done, and it's gotta be done right. So,
Mhm.
all right. The windows, we've all decided that needs to be done, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's,
And that's a good quote, the 25, or that's one of those things where we'll get 3 quotes and
Oh, no, we'll get 3 quotes. We'll get 3 quotes on it.
so
that
it's
was,
conceivable that that could be lower and help them out.
It could be. Asbestos is a tricky thing, though.
oh, I agree, Steve, but that extra 10, if it's 50,000, the extra 10 wasn't gonna help us there anyway, right? I mean,
Oh, I agree with you, Glenn, 100%. I was just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes in at a different number.
But maybe
Right.
get a quote for the windows first.
Yeah,
See
let's do
if there's savings.
Well, you know, it's asbestos in the glue from the floor tiles. So, you know, the asbestos people deal with that every single day. They should, a quote should be a quote, should be a quote. They should be able to get pretty darn close to what they quoted on
okay.
With Public Works, this is what you had asked me to do at the last meeting after you talked to Ralph, was to take out 115 from the paving program and move it and put this truck back in.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, Steve, you provided us with a spreadsheet for as many of these things as you could, and it was much appreciated. One of the things that I noticed is, and maybe we got to figure out a better way so we can understand it all, is when I read through it, some departments use 5% as a contingency, some use 10, some use 20. And what I found when I did the math, and it's human nature, I'm not blaming anybody, they would add the 10%, and if they got the 48.5, they'd round it up to 50. So it was 10% plus an extra cushion of $2,000 or 1,500 or 500. That's how we got to the round number. So it was a
Correct.
10% add to the quote, or 15 or 20% add to the quote, and then a round up to a round number.
Correct.
And it's human nature, not blaming anybody, but going forward, I think if you could come up with a plan with Marcia, maybe that we use a 5 or a 7% number that's standard to everybody.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think departments are always very loath to have to come back to the boards and ask for more money for a project, and that's why they do that. But I think a little more structure around that is a good idea, you know, unless there's an unusual circumstance, and then we would explain that why we're having a bigger contingency. But I think we can go with a 5 or 7% and just, that's the number, and go from that going forward.
Because
How
I looked
about-
at, go ahead.
I have I mean, obviously too late this year. What about they break it apart, give you the estimated cost and then the 5% contingency? We, as a Board of Finance, can take all those contingencies, wrap them into one number, probably discount it some amount, and we take the contingency risk instead of bumping up 100 line items by 5%.
Good
We
idea.
can take it as one lump, and then people come when it comes over, be realistic and give them the money.
That's a good idea. I'm fine with that.
Well, we may have some issues with that. We can look into that. We may
Not for
have
this
some
year,
issues.
Marcia.
Pardon me?
Not for this year. I know it's
Not
way
for this
too.
year, but going forward, we may have some issues if they're bonded, how we would word the bonding and things like that. But we can try to work through those issues.
Yeah, remember that 1 year mark where we listed every single project and the amount, and that caused us a problem? So we have to leave the bonding resolution open enough that we could move money
Right.
in between projects.
We got 7 or 8 months to figure that out.
I
But I
was
think
just
we can do
saying, Steve, because we're sitting here, we're trying to struggle with giving everybody what they want. And with each of these, and I'm not blaming anybody, so don't take it that way, but
No, I'm
as
not.
each of these contingencies creep up, we have room to move it to other areas
Yep.
of need.
No, I think that's a good idea.
So. Do we have like the truck was one of them? Do we have can you pull up that Excel thing by chance, Steve, the one that you sent out to us?
I can't. Marcia, do you have it, the list of? I can send it to you.
Give me a minute to find it.
Yeah, I'm looking for it too.
And thank you for this. This was a big help, Steve and Marcia. This was,
Not a
for
problem.
me, it was a big help. I don't know about for other
It-
board members.
Just makes things easier. A minute. Marcia, I just sent it to you, so see if you get it. Maybe you can pull it up.
All right.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
So now we're on the public works side. So you can see what we're talking about here.
Yep.
Like in the truck that we're talking about for 280, there's a $26,000 contingency built into that.
Yeah, that's about 10,000 plus an odd number to get it to 280.
Right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, is that something, I know what you're gonna tell me, Steve, and I respect that, is we're bonding it. If we don't spend it, we don't use it. But it does bring up our number
Yeah.
to a point of,
No, I agree with you 100%. Next year, we'll put this, here's what we think the cost is. Here's our standard contingency, and here's the number. I think that's a good idea.
I mean, it's just like the next line item, we have another 4,000, then 10,000 on the other one in contingency. In
Right.
that little section alone, we have, what, 50,000? What's the number there that we have?
61,184.
61,000 in contingencies built in for 4 line items.
Right.
You know, that's, and again, next year, I appreciate it. I'm just, and I know they're bonded and I get it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, that's a very fair comment. I think that's a good idea.
now, one of the thoughts I had, and it probably isn't going to make a difference, was it won't make a difference because we're bonding, was to move it down to 7% or 8%. But I think it's probably premature this year to be doing that.
I think I agree with you.
Anyone else have any comments from this slide here? I just wanted to bring it up to see, you know, show people what we got.
Right. It just solidifies more in my mind. Yeah, you put them all together and we take a percentage of it because not everything's going to need all of that.
Yeah.
And rounding up is crazy.
I mean, I think it goes back to what we talked about, and that's what Steve and Marcia and Steve to implement as a capital committee, that we come up with procedures and policies. So when it does come, you know, even before like a budget, maybe you would have the 3 quotes and a contingency. I know quotes delay and I know budgets are delayed, but it'd give us a better idea.
But here's the thing. I know I've suggested this before. I'd like to do this in the fall where we don't have the super rush. People can get together. We can get the quotes. We can get really good numbers. Don't have to pick, but just list all the things, have the cost. And then when we go to today, there's less questions and it's more structured and it's more simplified and it's consistent.
I agree.
I'm all
All
for
right.
that.
So that being said, let's go back to the town. So we took the 24,000 out for the pickup. We moved that down to 49. So you've incorporated the changes already, Steve and Marcia, right?
No, I just incorporated that one just now.
You minus 24,000.
Yep, I just did that a second ago.
Okay.
Where was that? I can't find my glasses.
48 BK, line 53.
He got a revised quote.
Got it.
Right, which was, again, part of the exercise that Steve and his team did to go back and look at things, so. All right. I'm okay with the town public works. Anybody have any questions?
I do. Are we on the vehicles yet?
What vehicles?
The line six, sorry, number.
Oh, yeah, go to line
53.
6. I apologize. Go ahead.
I'm really struggling with the electric vehicles. I'm going to be 100% honest. I saw on that other Excel spreadsheet that Marcia had up that, you know, if we're not approved, there's like, the grant has to be approved and it's not a sure thing. It's like, I was reading a note real quick before it flashed away, but not even that, but the fact that we're not able to, we actually have to get rid of 5 vehicles. And it's not like we can repurpose 5 vehicles.
That's correct.
And I just feel like, is that
Marcia,
really the right way
Let's
to
look
go?
at it. Marcia, can you pull up the spreadsheet on the electric vehicles?
Thanks,
Brianna,
Brianna, thank you.
the way I'm
Yeah.
seeing it is we're replacing 4 vehicles or 5. I think it was 4 in the end
Uh-huh.
for $50,000. And if we don't get the grant, that we're just gonna not spend it, and then we'll have $50,000 of current capital for next year.
Yeah.
Is it okay? So we're not on the hookup for on the line.
No, we're not on the hook for the cars. We don't. No, we're gonna.
No, we're not.
And I
on
mean,
the-
Steve can come back and say, "Hey, we want these other electric cars, and we need another 150,000." But then,
No.
I don't think that would jive.
We can.
What if
decline
we
the-
made all the cars Chevy Volts besides the Mercedes Sprinter?
You could do that. It would change it. Marcia, can you scroll down a little bit so I can explain this? Go down to the actual vehicles. So
Yeah,
we
would
look
change.
at it. So the 2007 Ford Taurus, that car is on its last legs. The air conditioning's gone, the suspension's gone. So we would be replacing that in the next couple years, next year probably. So I put the replacement cost in the top line to replace it with a Ford sedan, something like a Ford, right? That's $2,000 a year.
Mhm.
If we buy a Chevy Volt and replace it with a Chevy Volt, right? Now this includes the trade-in cost. The cost of the Bolt includes the trade-in cost.
Yeah,
And that's true for every single vehicle. We've
Okay.
given a value for that.
right.
And-
If you go up, Steve, I think it summarizes it for
Yeah,
us,
if you
right?
go up-
Right here is your summary.
Right? So the Chevy Bolt would cost us $28,945, right? After the grant, that's $57.99
Yep.
plus the 1,000. So the total cost of that replacement is $67.99. That includes the cost, the money we would lose for a trade-in. And I did that for every single vehicle.
Okay.
And that's the cost that's in the line down below. So that's a fully loaded cost of losing a vehicle, not getting the trade-in money, and the cost of the new vehicle itself. And if you look all the way to the right, now I use numbers here from New York. There was a study in New York City. They have 1,200 electric vehicles. They stated that their cost of maintenance per year for internal combustion engines is $1,621. That's their lowest cost of their vehicles. On their electric vehicles, their highest cost is $386, right? Plus I added in the charging stations, right? And that I came to the 1,066. If you look, So you take this and go all the way out to the right. The savings of trading in today for an electric vehicle versus that 2007 Forest is $39,000 over 15 years. Now, Marcia, can you go up all the way to the top? You see this box here on the right where it says maintenance costs?
Yep.
Let's say the electric vehicles aren't 386. Marcia, make that $1,000. So it's 1,600 for an internal combustion, 1,000 for the electric vehicle. Then can you scroll down again and look at the numbers on this car? We still save money. And that's true for every single vehicle.
Okay.
And so what I did was, if you can go down one more, Marcia, I put the cost of replacing the vehicle, existing vehicle, a Ford for a Ford, right, in the year 15 years out when we would replace it, and then started counting that money. And I did that for all 5 vehicles. And if you can see over to the right, every single vehicle, we save money, even if you increase the cost of maintenance for the electric vehicles and include, and this doesn't even include gas versus electric. Every study that I've read said that electric is less expensive than gas per mile. And this assumes they cost exactly the same. The studies say it's somewhere between 20 and 60% less expensive to run an electric vehicle on electric than gas. But it depends on what part of the country you're from, the number of miles you drive. So I didn't think that was a fair thing to throw in here. So I assume it's the same cost. But with every single vehicle, if we replace them today, we save money over the next 15 years. Somebody poke a hole in my logic on this.
I'm not gonna poke a hole in it. I wanna go back up to the vehicles. I wanna see if we make them all Chevy Volts, what the number goes to.
And will the charging stations be in town for use for anybody with an electric vehicle?
We would put them in the back because they're town vehicles and we have to charge them every night, but other people could use them. And we'd also put one at the police station. So
Okay.
people, they could, I would love to get, we have a grant application under the VW Settlement Fund for charging stations for the front of the building. We haven't heard back from them. It's been 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, but if you change these cars,
Yep.
it makes it even more. You
We go
can't,
down to 42,000 or 41,500, and that you had 5,000 built into contingency. So if we kept the cars the same, the maintenance would all be the same, everything would be the same, every car would be the same. And we're only into this for 41,000. That saves us another 5,000 plus some contingency money possibly for cash.
And I didn't change the Mercedes. Is that a SUV? Is that why it's a little?
That's an
Transit,
SUV. That's a Sprinter. Yeah.
yeah, we can't change that one. And
No,
the-
that has a purpose. That's a purpose vehicle.
Yeah, and the police car also, the Interceptor, a Chevy Bolt, I don't think will work for them.
That goes over 140. I mean, do we have to go 140 on the top roads?
Well, so my problem, and Steve, you did a great job on the spreadsheets, great job explaining it. It's great. I have a problem with strip mining for lithium. I have a problem with 10-year battery life. You got a 2007 Ford Taurus, well, we wouldn't have that in a Chevy or a Taurus or a Tesla because we know in 10 years they're worth nothing. You know, no trade-in value, no nothing. I think that clearly anyone that actually reads up on it sees that, especially in the Northeast where we use a lot of coal now for our power plants, it's actually worse for the environment than the pollution that modern cars put out. I just don't think they're these glorious things that, maybe I'm a dinosaur. I just don't think the country is at a point where those things actually make sense for the environment. I think that it's a feel good. People pat themselves on the back and think they did something good, and you don't. So that's my 2 cents.
Have we visited the Tesla pricing recently, Steve? Because there was a big article that came out last week that Tesla's increased their models by 10,000.
Well,
Because
this is
they
at
can.
the early last week. The Tesla was 39 for the base model. And if you're an individual, you could get up to $6,000 off. I didn't investigate that because this is not an individual purchasing this.
Mhm.
So the last price I have on the Tesla is 39,000.
Okay, because I was reading on that too. If you change, other than black, if you get anything other than black, it's another 1,500 for paint, and
Yeah,
there's add-ons for all sorts of stuff that gets a little bit crazy.
yeah, but here's the thing. Go ahead and change these numbers. Anyway, if you make the Teslas 50,000, let's say you buy every single option they have, right? It
Yeah.
still saves money. It's
Steve,
still,
as an owner of a Tesla Model 3, I can give you some insight into pricing if anybody's looking for that. If you're looking for the all-wheel drive model, Model 3 starts at $49,900. The rear-wheel drive starts at $39,000. So I'm not sure which model you're looking at for
But
your.
we're gonna replace
spreadsheet.
the Interceptor with that. You can't have rear-wheel drive on an Interceptor.
Right. So you're going to be looking at 49 for the all-wheel drive, and that's in white, base with no options. One of the issues I would see with, I know it's just for illustration here, you're looking at what if we went with all Chevy Volts. One of the benefits about a Tesla, and I won't say it as somebody who loves the Tesla, I'll say it as just from a numbers perspective. The efficiency that I've seen, the studies on the battery and the technology that's in a Tesla and the over-the-air updates that the software can get will ensure that every time that a new patch comes out, it gets rolled out and it gets sent out to all of the vehicles that have the 3G capability to get that signal, and updates the computer. It increases battery life, whereas the Chevy Volt doesn't have that technology. So if you're going to go with a long-term decision about whether or not to go electric, I just think the technology that Tesla brings is something that puts them in front of any other vehicle.
John, can you talk a little bit about, because you've been commuting to the same place, gas and electric, what's the difference there?
I would say right the very first month. So my fuel bill was about $300 a month driving from Brookfield to Greenwich every day. And when I switched over to electric, obviously my fuel bill went down to zero, but my electric bill went up between $100, $120, $130 a month. So a lot of that is dependent on your cost per kilowatt hour. So I have, Town Square Energy as my supplier, and that's all from Eversource. So my all-in is about just under 8 cents a kilowatt hour. So I would say, based off of that and the size of the battery, to do a complete charge at my house on my home charger, it costs about $7 to charge the full 300-mile range of my battery at home. So it's all dependent, I guess, on your kilowatt per hour cost, whether or not these numbers make sense. But to me, just knowing what I know about the program, what you put into the spreadsheet, you're essentially getting new vehicles at a substantial discount. And there is an advantage to electric. There's less maintenance. And I totally understand Mark's perspective about how they source the minerals, that they use to build the batteries. I understand all that, and that's a worthy, discussion. But from a numbers perspective, it definitely seems like an attractive option. So if anybody has any questions, shoot me an email, or if you want further information, I'd be happy to.
Thank you for that explanation. You've done a lot of research in it. That's awesome. Glad it's saving you money. Steve, what's our kilowatt hour cost as a commercial entity in town?
I think we're paying about 9 cents. I could be wrong. I think it's right around 9 cents.
So it's still a considerable savings in John's scenario.
Yeah.
Might bump you up to 150 instead of 300, 50% savings in fuel.
Reports are that gas has gone up at Costco a good bit in the last month. The reports are saying it's going to continue to go up, but
Also electricity. So
yeah, you're absolutely right.
Dan, you got any thoughts?
Steve made a convincing argument and a well thought out spreadsheet that, sounds like, again, from a numbers perspective, it's almost a no-brainer that you're getting new vehicles and somebody's paying a big portion of the cost of it. So
yeah, 80% of it.
Sounds like a fiscally responsible thing to do.
I agree with the fiscal part of it. It's just the vehicle, what we put out there.
One more thing, though, in terms of maintenance. So if something were to go wrong with one of the vehicles, I don't know. Obviously, our garage guys are top notch, but some of the technology might be above what they've been exposed to. So you have to factor that, because a lot of the repairs would be probably required to be done by Tesla.
What do you get for a warranty on a Tesla? How many years?
It's a 336.
Okay.
But the battery, to your point, it does have a useful life of 10 years where it will retain, I think, up to 90% of its charge, and no battery degradation up until 10 years. So.
I don't know. I also don't know that I love the optics of a town employee driving around in a Tesla. I know that, the Model S is apparently a good price for what you get. A Model 3, I should say.
Yeah, it's a bottom of the line.
But it's still a Tesla. I could be on board with a Volt, and obviously the Sprinter if we need that one to be electric for some reason.
I think if anybody asked me if I was driving a Tesla, I would pull out my spreadsheet and say, this is how much money we're saving you.
You want to carry that around with you to the grocery store and answer that question? Or
I've done similar things. I don't go to a grocery store without a spreadsheet.
We talked about a Tesla, Steve, to be the interceptor, but is it really made to be an interceptor?
Well,
Is that like a
you remember-
standard thing?
If Chief said he would give it to one of the detectives as a detective vehicle, but I agree, we would probably have to switch it to a four-wheel drive.
yeah, which bumps it to $47,000 on their website.
Yeah.
Still, you punch in $50,000 as a cost, it still saves money.
I don't want to, get stuck on this for too long. I did just want to, just in my own personal knowledge
Yeah.
from running a shop that has electric motorcycles, you have to send technicians to high electric voltage training in order for them to work on the electric vehicles. And they send techs to those dealerships that don't have them. However, when they're out of warranty and you don't have any high voltage technicians, that's going to go to the dealer, and that's going to be costly because you won't be able to realize those savings within your town employees. So like John said, 3-year 36, but after 3 years and something happens to that car, it could be costly because we're now bringing it to a dealership outside of that window. My 2 cents.
Yeah.
Carry on.
I just checked. It's actually 4 years, 50,000 miles. They must have changed it. I purchased mine about a year and a half ago, so I think they must have updated their warranty. But still.
Maybe they just give you a subpar warranty because they know how you drive.
That's entirely possible.
Which brings me to the point of a thought I just came to me. So the majority of our police vehicles, and even the highway vehicles, see more engine hours. They always talk about the hours worse than the miles. How does that work in a Tesla? They want to leave them running to leave the heat on and leave their air conditionings and whatever.
Yeah, obviously, there's no idle. There's no idle. It's just off. It's like a golf cart, really. It's a golf cart on steroids.
If they're leaving the heat on, does the car just, it just sucks some battery down?
Exactly. It'll deplete the battery. But again, they're very efficient. So the idea is that, charging takes a while. So even if you go to supercharger at the mall, what they'll do is they'll provide, that you can watch Netflix or whatever while you're sitting there idling. And I mean idle, but while you're charging.
I doubt if the detective's going to watch Netflix. I hope.
Yeah, but my point is that the way the technology is, it's built to really draw very, very minimal on the battery, for a situation like that.
Okay.
Now, I talked to Rudy Marconi. There are, I think, 5 towns who are entering into this CMAQ grant.
We don't compare to other towns, remember?
Yeah. I'm just giving anecdotally. They have, I believe, 3 of them. They're trying to get, I think, 4 more. And when they first got one, no one wanted to use the electric vehicle, right? That was 5-6 years ago. He said, now you can't keep them in the parking lot. He said, guys love them. For what it's worth.
Okay. My final thoughts, and it's up for the board, is I'd go all Chevy Volts and the Mercedes. I'd be on board. That reduces it down to 40,000. We're trying to keep the cash capital low. We still would replace the vehicles. If the car's going to a detective anyway, as what Steve said, I don't see the difference of the Volt versus the Tesla, and it's an experiment anyway out the gate. I mean, this is our first dab into these cars. I do like how you laid out the costs, Steve. I appreciate that. That's just my 2 cents. So I'll pass that on to Mark.
I'm gonna refrain from commenting. I want to hear some other people. I always end up going first.
All right, I'm gonna pick on Dan then.
All right, I think your argument makes sense. This is out of cash. We're counting pennies on cash. I think that the pennies that we're saving are more important than getting a Tesla versus a Volt. I think that it still accomplishes what I think is the most important thing, which is getting a discounted replacement. So I think your idea is a solid one.
Okay, thank you, Eileen.
I appreciate the cost comparison and everything. I'm in support of this program.
To what aspect?
I mean, I don't know what the specifications needed. I mean, if they need the all-wheel drive for a detective vehicle, then, you know, move that one to a Tesla and just keep the bolts for everything else plus the Sprinter. I guess it depends more on what the specifications that are needed by the police department. If the Bolt can meet the needs, then I'm okay with that, but I'm not sure that I'm qualified to make that decision.
Okay. Brianna?
The spreadsheet was great and definitely changed how I was thinking about it for sure. So Steve, I thank you for that. I am with Glenn on, removing the Tesla and bringing it down to a Bolt. And that is $10,000, and that 10,000 can go to possibly help us a little bit more elsewhere. I think with such a tough capital, it would be good just to take a look, every little bit helps. So.
Yeah, it's not 10,000, it's 2,000.
Well, we got 5,000 built into contingency.
Right.
Too. So she's looking to pick up
I'm sorry,
some on the contingency side.
Well, if you lower the cost of the vehicle 10,000, you're actually only spending 2,000 less.
4,000 less. The Teslas are 2,000 more than the Volts. So we pick up 4,000 on the vehicle side, and then we have a lower chance of the contingency, hopefully, of the 5,000, because you got 4,500 built into the contingency side of that. So it does reduce it 4,000 definitely.
For 2 vehicles, yes.
Yes. Mark?
I don't like the idea of these experiments, and especially in tough times. I know they're all tough, but we're trying to come out of a pandemic. But Steve laid out a good option. The only one I can get on board with is the Volts. Every savings helps.
So what do we reduce that line item to? Reduce it down 4,000 to 46?
Yeah, I wouldn't reduce it too much because, this could take a year or longer to actually get the award, and the cost could change, but we could always come back.
All right, let's remove 4. Ricky, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm really indifferent either way. I mean, I think we should definitely do it just because we're getting 4 vehicles at a very reduced cost.
We're getting 5.
5.
or 5, right? Yeah, 5.
Right, we're getting 5, the way I understand is we're getting 5 vehicles, 4 Volts right now is what we talked about, and the 1 Sprinter, which is a cargo van. And it's the only one that we can get to meet our needs.
Right now, yeah. They say
So
it'll
are
be
these Volts?
next year.
Sorry, there's the Chevy Volt and the Chevy Bolt. The Bolt is like a smart car that is full electric. The Volt is a hybrid. Are we getting Volts?
The Bolt, we're going all electric. That's the Bolt, right?
The Volt says it's pure battery electric until the battery capacity drops to a predetermined threshold.
Okay, so they're Bolt with a B.
Volt with a V.
No, I believe the grant is for just the Chevy Bolt, which is a full electric vehicle. The Bolt is not a full electric vehicle.
The Volt is not a full electric vehicle, you're right. And it's for
Right.
only full electric vehicles.
So for $2,000 to have a full-size sedan Tesla versus what is essentially a smart car, I think when I'm comparing the two, I guess it depends on what the need of the vehicle is, but a sedan I think would make more sense for a police detective than what is essentially a smart car.
So much for indifferent.
Well, you asked.
I really struggle with the Tesla for many reasons.
It's an
That's just
American
me.
car.
I'm one of just all of us. I'm one of 10 people here, whatever, but I struggle with that. The optics all around. I get Steve's spreadsheet. I understand the savings. It's just something I can't get behind, the Tesla. But that's up to you guys. My suggestion is to move it down 4,000. I mean, that's my suggestion. Let's go around the board. Mark, are you on board with that, or you want to go back to the 50?
No, I already said my piece.
All right,
I'm
Brianna?
The Chevy.
Sorry, it just took me a while to find the unmute. I'm sticking with my down by 4.
Dan?
Yeah, I'm staying too.
Ricky? They're indifferent, but you brought up a point, so you're back to
Yeah,
50.
no, I'll be good going down to 4 too. That's fine.
All right, Eileen?
I mean, I think if it came to a $4,000 difference, we can find that money if we needed to. So.
All right, let's go down 4 and move on then. Okay, the library. We all agree, I think, on the 425 here, Steve, but where did that number come from too? And I know it's a conglomeration of a lot of things, Steve.
They did get, I believe, an architect in to look at it, and we got an estimate. This was a few years ago, because this has been on there for a while, and this includes all the windows and the front portico entrance, redoing all the glass.
I mean, I know it's needed, but I mean, again, do we have any clue of that number still being somewhat firm, not firm? Are we going to run into trouble, not trouble?
I think it's a pretty good number. You know, they had a professional come in and give them an estimate, and Ralph looked at it. So I'm pretty confident Ralph knows what he's doing.
This number was last year, though, right? We approved this last year. All materials.
Yeah.
This is
420. So all building materials have increased dramatically over the last year. So I do worry that the 425 might be 500 or 525 just because materials are costing more now.
Yeah. What I would say is leave it where it is now. Let us go out to bid. And if we have a problem, we'll come back to the boards.
I agree.
And to be honest, I mean, my recent experience with window sales is that, you know, if you have a number, they'll find a way to meet it. So,
Okay.
I mean, if it's not a historical building that we need to have a specific window for, you know, for
Yeah, it has to
historic
go through
society,
the
then I'm
historic
sure we
district.
can find something that makes it work.
Yeah, it does have to go through the historic district, but that was taken into consideration when they got this bid. You know,
Yeah.
it has to look similar to what
Right.
was.
But the
before.
building itself is not historic, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, the 7,000 and the 5,000 are pretty minuscule for what they want to do. Town hall parking lots and sidewalks. We turned this down last year.
I remember the sidewalks. I don't remember what's the parking lot issue. I don't recall it being obviously bad, but I'm not there.
It's real, that's probably mislabeled. It's the front. We've done part of the front concrete, and it's settling and chipping and blocking. It's
Right, and
really
the sidewalk.
and the curbing. The parking
Oh, so it's not paving the parking lot. It's
is not
just,
paving. It shouldn't.
okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
And you've got a quote to get you somewhere near that number for that?
And is this done out to bid with like the school projects? I know they did a lot of cement work at Wiskinier last summer
We
with the
typically
sidewalks in
go
the
out
high
and bid.
school.
We typically
So
go
this-
out and bid separately. If we both had similar projects, we could do it together
Okay.
and get our purchasing agent to coordinate that.
okay. Next one, the town hall generator. That one I'm struggling with from the point of view of a couple things. One, if we approve the boys' locker room, we've made that now into a place where people can go for shelter during storms. The showers will be upgraded. We have a place for them to go. And also, what we've also learned in this pandemic is the town hall can work remote for a few days. They aren't locked in to go into the building to be able to do their jobs. So do we really need the 160,000 for the generator at this time?
Well, first, I would say, we have been open the whole time. Only half our staff is working outside at home, working from home. We've had people in the building the whole time, because we do need people in the building. During the storm 2.5 years ago, we were basically blind to everything going on in town. And I was moving my office from the fire department over to the police station, back over to the fire office. And we still do have some systems that are internal that we couldn't use. A lot of our systems, our email, things like that, all go through our Nexus. Now we are moving to the thing, and Dan just wrote a note, remote workers are still connecting to their office PCs. And town hall is all part of that link. I think it's important. I think that we're going to continue to see these types of things in the future. And people, I can't tell you, even during the major storm, I would drive by to get something out of my office and somebody would be at town hall trying to ask questions, and we had stuff plastered up on the front. I think it's important that town hall be open and be a viable entity for our residents. And I think it's just one of those things that we do need to put. I think all our buildings need remote generation. Just the last storm, that wasn't that bad a storm, and Eversource completely bollocksed it, in my opinion. I was out of power for 7 days.
At town hall, you were out of power for 7 days?
No, I was
Why
personally.
was town hall out of power? Because that's a different branch.
Town hall was not out of power that time.
Right. So I agree with everything you say, that town hall should be on power, although I don't know that we lose it very often, macro burst aside.
Yeah.
I just don't think this is the year to do it. We're trying to give money back to the schools. We're taking money out of paving. I don't know. I don't like the generator this year.
Eileen?
That's kind of been a questionable one on my part too. I mean, I see the importance, but I don't know that it's completely necessary. And again, I mean, with the ability for people to work remote and, we can still get some stuff done, I don't know that it's I'm okay, Pat, putting it off for another year.
Ricky?
If it's a matter of if we're just going to kick it down the next year, my concern is that we're going to be borrowing at a much higher rate and spending a lot more than we need to if we just do it in another year or two. That's the only other concern I have.
It's a very valid concern. I just think more people will be back to work by next year. I hope. Maybe I just hope they will.
Okay, Brianna?
How many buildings in town currently have generators?
2 fire departments in the police station and the high school.
The high school is relatively new, correct, Steve?
2 years old, brand new generator.
And
Yep.
didn't we just approve one for the police department?
We just
We didn't-
replaced them for the police department. yeah.
Replace one for the police department, yeah. So in light of that,
It died.
yeah, in light of that, Ricky brings up an excellent point for sure, but I kind of feel like we have 4 major buildings where people could go that would be open, especially that we just replaced one at a very important part, which is the police station. Not that I'm saying the town hall's not important, but you know, police, fire, and we have the high school. So I'd be in favor of letting it go for a little bit.
Dan, you get to bring us home.
I'm not going to put my name to it, but if our credit rating stays where it is, municipal yields are not going anywhere anytime soon, and we're at very little risk of borrowing at rates much higher than they are today. So I agree. Marcia and John, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong.
No, you're absolutely correct.
So right now, Dan, you're in favor of not doing it in this fiscal year.
Correct.
Okay.
Dan, I think I need your crystal ball when I go to buy.
I
a new
said I'm not
house.
signing my name to anything.
Oh, it's gonna come back to haunt you.
Okay.
Back to that, we did talk to our financial advisor to see if they were going up, if we should start doing doing the rest of the financing now. And he had said, no, we should be fine and wait.
Nobody has a crystal ball. That's basically what he said. I don't think, we don't, he doesn't think, and we don't think that rates are gonna go so high in the next 2 years that we'll get killed with interest.
Right, but you're gonna stay on top of that, right, Steve? I mean, obviously.
Yeah, we talk to bond counsel regularly on that.
Right, so we'd catch the upswing. So the worst we're gonna do is catch the first uptick.
Probably, yes.
Okay. All right, the Avalon camera proposal. This covers all of the library too was built into this, right? And everybody?
Yeah, I'm fine with that one.
This one, there was a big markup too on the contingency point of view, so hopefully it'll come in less, because it was 80,000 for the cameras, it was 45% for the labor, which brings you to 120, I think, or it was a little bit less than that, 40% for labor.
The question becomes, if we have to go under, for the camera placement, we may need to go under our parking lot, and that could get more expensive, and that's where we're not sure.
Oh, that was the trenching part that you wrote in there as in
Right.
the contingency?
Right.
Okay, perfect, all right. The ADA bathroom we did last year, correct? We approved it last year, it just didn't get done?
You approved, I think it was, Marcia, 50,000,
Right,
and we need the remainder for that.
So you approved 50,000 before we did the COVID budget cuts. Those are the ones that are in green. So, but then we couldn't go to bonding, so it didn't go any further.
okay. I'm okay with that. Anybody have a comment on that? I think we need to go through with it regardless of who lives in that building in the future. It still needs to be done, I think.
I agree.
I do too.
This I had a question about, Steve. Every design that we've done, we've put into cash, including, I think, the library study of 30. Why is the 20,000 sitting in 20-year bonding?
I think that was me because we added the word design at the end, so I can move that to cash.
Oh, I'm not saying move it. I just asked a question, don't.
It should be cash because, we have to look at a design and then make a determination whether we actually want to move forward with the project.
That's another project I would push off a couple of years.
Well, the concern I have is, and I know you guys are going to get bored like crazy, with the China sword and India and all of the countries absolutely refusing all of our waste materials. The cost of tipping garbage for our haulers has gone from 3 years ago, about $50 a ton, to right now at $92 a ton. That is going to go directly over time to our residents in their bills. Also, most of what we have now that is being taken out, both the single stream and your regular garbage, is either getting incinerated or taken to an outside landfill. It is not getting separated. It's just that single stream is not working. And that's one of the reasons we got the glass recycling dumpster in the parking lot, because glass represents 20% of the weight of garbage. So if we can even recycle the glass, there's a new company called Urban Mining that Oak Ridge and others have, and we have contracts with, and they will actually recycle the glass. So what we'd like to be able to do is offer recycling and possibly municipal solid waste for all our residents, which over time will lower their overall costs. And if you do this properly, like Newtown has a massive recycling operation, they break even on theirs. Typically, the recycling centers we've seen, they lose 10 to 15% because they have fees, tip fees, okay, so much for a mattress, so much for a battery. There are a number of different ways you can price it, but we would put this over in the brush yard, and I've talked to Ralph about it. I think we can do it in a way that's one aesthetically works and will not disturb his operations. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's just the right thing to do, at least get the design. We can price it out.
I'm not surprised that you and I disagree.
It's if we're moving into cash, it's way down on my list of priorities of $20,000 of cash. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'd rather do the BOLA, I'd rather do the AEDs, I'd rather do a vehicle.
And I
$20,000.
can't come to grips with bonding 20 grand.
Right.
Or bonding a design, even worse.
No, we shouldn't bond it. We shouldn't bond it.
Eileen?
Can we fit that? Can we work this into any budget leftovers from? Can we squeeze it into this year's budget operating?
Oh, yeah, we absolutely could.
Ricky?
My thoughts exactly. Was look into this year's operating, see if we can cover it.
Okay, we'll go through that and come back to you.
Brianna, you have a comment on it?
No, I'm kind of feeling the same way though.
But just to push this along, I would say let's just cut the 20K and then see if we can work it in this year.
But I mean, that's sort of, Ricky, and I see all sides of this. That sort of defeats the purpose of cash on hand, because whatever cash we have on hand, that defeats what Mark and I think Dan were saying in a way of, do we really, whether we pay for it this year or not, is an expense we want to take on right now, I think is the, right, Mark and Dan, is that your point?
Absolutely. I'd buy, instead of spending 20 grand in cash on a design for a recycle center at this point, I'd buy AEDs for the firemen's cars. I mean, there's so many more things, and I'm not advocating spending more than we're on, but there's so many other things that are more priority in my view.
I'm 100% on that page too.
I do feel like it was number 10. So.
I don't know that this is the same way.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Right?
Sorry.
This is not a ranked list, is it, Steve?
No, that's the numbers, I think.
Oh.
Different departments.
It is ranked.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
Within the department. This isn't number 10 compared to the police department.
the library windows are not, this is not number 10 to the library windows. They're different places.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's highlight that one and think about it.
These are Ralph's rankings of these 10 items of what order he'd put them in.
Well, there you go. It is 10th. Good call, Brianna.
Thank you.
So regardless, we're taking out a bonding. We know that.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's coming out of bonding. We just got to decide, is it cash critical right now? Because if we have cash left over, I think we should stack some of the ones we're not dealing with or that we put in on the cash side and take care of them this year.
Right.
I mean, I'd like to weigh them out personally, but that's just me.
I agree. Moving from capital cash to operating cash is a shell game. I wouldn't do that.
Okay, leave it highlighted, something to come back to. All right, let's go down now. Elevators we took out, or Steve took out, but I think that the logic behind that, Steve, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is we don't know what the building's gonna be in a year or two with center school, that once we figure that out, we can adapt the building to our needs, or no?
Yeah. I mean, it's clear, for ADA compliance and things like that, that the building does need an elevator, but we don't know who's going to use it in the future. I think the town is pretty much, from talking to everyone, we've agreed that center school is probably the place for a new library. So if we do that and do a new library at center school, then if we rented this building out to an organization, maybe they'll put the elevator in. I would just wait on it.
Or if they only used one floor of it, or you had a tenant in the first and tenant in the bottom.
Right.
Plenty of scenarios that it doesn't need an elevator.
Right. So I just want to make that clear to everybody. You just didn't take it out. You had a reason behind it that
Right.
made sense. Okay. Library generator, obviously, we felt that the town hall we were discussing, so we agree with that there, I believe, speaking for everybody. This one here,
Go.
I want everybody to know that this is strictly for be able to use the building on the property to what would fit it. There's no design built into it. It's just to see if it's feasible to go.
Go in
I
center
do-
school.
At center school, the 30,000. I do think that we owe it to the town to do this 30,000 to see. I listened to Yvonne and her presentation. I don't know if I believe it, but she seems to be on top of it, that she thinks that it was voted down because of the location and everything at that point, that it wasn't a dollar value. That could be debated, but I mean, she made sense. So I'd like to keep that 30,000 in for the study. I think they've worked hard. I think also Bob Belden wrote us a letter saying that if we approve this, he could start to go out and seek donations as well. So we've always put the library up almost like a put up or shut up type of mode, like go raise money. And they've always said it's difficult to raise without a project ahead of them. And I think that they're moving forward right now. So I'd like to support that. That's my 2 cents. I'll start with Eileen first this time. How's that?
I think the library is a huge asset in our town and it's used across generations. And I think it's no need that they need more space. They could do a lot more if they have more space. And, we have this building that will be vacated. And I think it's definitely it's a worthwhile investment.
Ricky?
I think we need to wait until we have a better idea of what's going on with the future library plans.
So you're take it out or leave it in?
Are we, sorry, are we on the architect or the elevator?
The architect.
Oh. My bad. Sorry, my kid was distracting me. I'm good with leaving it in.
Okay, Brianna?
Yeah, I feel like it's the right thing is to leave it in. I feel like with Eileen, we kind of do owe it to the town to just explore it. And that way we've we've done all of our due diligence, and if it works out, it's great.
Dan,
I'm gonna leave it in.
Mark,
Leave it in.
Steve, you want to add a comment for the town?
Yeah, I would leave it in. You know, we've worked with the library in the past, and obviously they're starting from scratch, and they have a lot of new blood there, and I've been talking to them. They're going to be doing some significant fundraising for a new library, and we need to plan for the future. So I think this is a real good idea.
Okay, leave it in. Okay. We're on to the,
Can we just go back up one?
Yes,
back to
sorry,
the library
Steve.
there?
I
Oh,
apologize.
That's right. We pulled the phone system out because our phone system, the Board of Ed's phone system, the library needs a new phone system. And we're hoping to be able to coordinate with the new school because they're getting a whole new system next year to see if we can get some economies of scale and have one phone system. So I don't have to dial, no one has to dial 9 digits to get somebody in town. So we're going to look at that. So that's why we took it out this year. And the security cameras we took out because we have the Avalon.
I think we all agree with it, no?
yeah.
All right. This is 2 mowers, 0 turn for the Park and Rec. I think her quote actually was pretty close to the 35,000. I think Mary didn't add much contingency in there at all. So I'm okay with that. Any other comments?
I'm good.
Okay. This one up for debate. I go first all the time. Eileen, you go first this time.
Just seeing how much use our parks and everything got. I mean, if although it wasn't the Bobcat, sorry, I'm confusing it with the little backhoe. The little backhoe is the one that they rent all the time. This is a replacement. Oh, this is the first time we've seen it. I thought that.
Marcia just put in the reduction of the cost revision
Okay.
from a quote. So it's not 70,000 anymore. It's 58 and it's 5-year financing.
I mean, it's definitely a piece of equipment that will get used. And if it's a replacement for something, I don't have the capital worksheet up to go with it. Hold on. Can you come back to me so I can look that
Yep.
up? Thanks.
Dan, you look like you're ready to say something, so jump on in.
Not at all. I'm fixing my chair, but no, I took notes on ones that I had questions on, and I have no notes on this one. So that means that during the presentation, I thought it was okay. So that's my opinion.
And even went down 11,000 or 12,000 as we speak.
Yep. So the down 12 is a net positive to me.
All right, Brianna.
And that 12 that it went down is because of a trade-in that she had forgotten to put on the sheet.
Great.
I'm okay with it.
Mark.
I've always wanted a Bobcat tool cat, but I'm not an adult enough to own one. But what implements, so at $70,000, you're getting the bare bones toolcat, which has a dump body, 4-wheel drive, whatever. They're not getting, at 70 grand, Marcia, they're not getting anything with it. They're not getting any of the tools, the hydraulic loader or the sweeper or the snow blower.
But it's a replacement. Do they have those tools already? If it's a replacement and not an investment, do they have?
So the old tools will fit on the new one? Is that,
I don't know.
Marcia?
I still haven't found the worksheet yet. I'm almost there, I think.
She was pretty thorough on that, I believe.
Yeah. Then that's fine with me. I'll take the 12 grand savings. Okay, I'll buy the one we have for 13.
Do you really need more toys, Mark?
I do. Tools, Eileen. My wife might be watching.
All right, let's what I forgot, what were they plowing? Steve left the building. What are they plowing? Do we remember what they had to plow? Was it the greenway they plowing? Well, that
They do the sidewalk. Don't they do all the school sidewalks? That's them.
They do the sidewalks, the town hall. So they do as I understand it, Public Works does the streets and they do everything else.
And
So
I
they
think-
plow all the parking lots of the other town hall, the,
Library and
Yes.
I'm okay with it in. I think Mary's presentations were solid. She does a good job. And if she feels it's a need, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm good.
Dan,
Yep.
Eileen,
I'm good.
Ricky,
I'm good here.
Brianna.
I'm good.
Okay. Wheel loader, I'm okay with waiting a year on that. I'd like to, personally, I'd like to see the town public works and the, the park and recs look and see if they come up with a vehicle that could be dual purpose, because each one was asking for something similar, I believe.
That makes sense.
But that's the one they said they would share it, right?
Right.
Is this the one they said they would share?
No, it was a mini excavator.
Yeah.
She did
I'm
say-
okay
Yeah. Yeah,
with
she
leaving
said,
this one out.
yeah, she said she could go another year without this one in my notes.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I've got notes on all of those, and mine is that for the rest of those lines through 91, I'm fine with them all out. I don't
Yep.
see a reason to put any of them in, if that saves us any time.
Go ahead.
I'm
Eileen.
curious, the blower we put off for 2 years, and that's a really small expense. Do we know why we keep avoiding that one?
Again, it's cash and we're trying to keep our cash at a certain level.
She has it as priority number 10, and her priorities are go across these different sections. So 9 is here, 10 is there.
I think we're supplying 2 big items this year, Eileen, so let's, next year, there hopefully won't be 2 big items on there, or we'll have even the one at 129 is still less than the 150 or 140 that we've approved
Yeah.
on the bigger items, right? So my 2 cents.
Okay.
All right, let's go down to the next section, 94. Anybody have notes? Let's go that way. Mark and Dan, you guys had notes, so if we can chop out a bunch, fire it away.
And the Kids Kingdom, I'm good. The replace stairs, I'm good. Once we get into, their 13, 14, 15 asks, I'm not exactly sure why we still have those in. If the turf field needs a top dress with the crumb rubber, if it needs it, it should be higher than a 15.
Right. That makes sense.
So I'm pulling out 11, no, line 95, 96, 97, 98.
95 you're pulling out?
No, I'm sorry.
Stairs?
Thank you, 96.
The netting.
I would leave in the stairs.
But is the netting a safety thing if they put in a new ball field that we gotta protect the building or cars or something?
Well, if it is, it should be higher than a 13. There's netting there.
Is there for a night? There's no 90-foot field there, is there? At Cadigan?
Says additional.
For additional for a 90-foot. This is a new field, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, but we don't have a plan for that field yet. The NBC's still.
Yeah.
looking at it right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
Oh.
you're right. The field is
Yeah.
there, has it, but if we're not
Okay.
doing a field, why are we giving them 33 grand for a net?
yeah. I'm okay with that logic.
All right, take out the
Yeah.
33 too.
And then anything below that, I can't see any reason. if
The
they're-
You
Cadigan
gotta
stairs-
replace the main staircase.
The main staircase is bad. That number, row 97, I don't know why that's a 13, a 14, and why that's below the netting, but if you haven't been to Cadigan, those stairs need to be replaced. There's
Yeah, I've fallen
often
down them.
caution tape around them. They need that we need to take care of. That's a liability for the town.
You can convince me to leave that in. I'll go on your side.
I'm good with the way that looks. I think the Kids Kingdom surface repair is important. People are spending more time outside. the town hall, replace the stairs, and replace the main staircase. I think those are all things that are important. People are spending more time outside, and it's important. Those are issues.
Anecdotally, the couple nice days we had here at Town Hall, kids had to wait to use stuff at Kids Kingdom. The parking lot was packed. I think that's going to continue as people try to get their kids outside. So I think
What are we doing on the turf field rubber?
Marcia took it out. I mean, because Mark said to, and that's where we're headed.
Well,
I can go either way.
you
So
didn't play
Dan,
any football or soccer there all year, so how bad could it have gotten in a year? And it's a 15 on their list.
Yeah, but we want to maintain stuff. We don't want to let things get in disrepair so much that it costs us more later on.
This is putting the little rubber crumbs in the field. Nobody vacuumed them up. So the ones that were there 2 years ago didn't get used at all last year with no sports. That's my point.
Just looking to see if there's some top.
Brianna, your thoughts?
Ongoing maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, Mark brings up a good point about it not being used at all. It's number 15, and I don't see, is this the first time it's brought up? Because I don't see the check marks in 19 and 20. So I feel like, could it wait or highlight it, and maybe we'll come back to it, but
They
I'm
say it can wait, yeah. They tick it can wait another year.
there you go.
Okay. Dan, you okay with that?
I am.
Ricky?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. What was your reasoning behind the bleachers, Steve?
because it was number 20 and the next one's number 24 on the list.
Yeah.
I do know that, the Cadigan Walking Trail, actually, Mary's talked to us about that more than 1 year. That's where they want to make it so it's available. So if somebody has, a carriage, they can do circuits. And I thought that was a good idea. I just didn't think we had enough money this year to do it.
That walking path does get used quite a bit.
It does.
Thoughts from anybody else?
See no problem with the bleachers.
No, I mean on the walking path Steve just brought up.
Oh, sorry.
That's an add-in. That would be an add-in of
Parking area.
24,000.
So it also is the back parking lot regrading. So it's not just the sidewalk. It's repairing. It's fixing the grade and spreading the stone and rolling and compacting the parking area.
Well, that is a mess back there.
So it's more than just a walking trail.
Yeah. See, now we're getting into the slippery slope of deciding the priorities as opposed to taking the priorities of the experts and figuring out what we can, what we can't. But I'm not interested in saying we should move something to a higher priority than other people suggested it is.
And I'm not either. I just wanted to bring that up because next year it's something I think we should absolutely prioritize.
All right. I'm good with Dan's logic.
Yep,
Yeah, me
me
too.
too. 100%.
Okay.
I want to second guess everyone, but except for Dan.
You want to add that back in? I'll listen.
Okay. Why? Oh, that's the next thing we're on. Okay. My bad. One, we approved two of these last year, right? We moved one down and moved one up. Why is it negative 127?
Because that was the reserve we had last year, I believe, right?
Yeah,
That is correct.
Yep. Funded half of it. Yeah.
right. Okay.
Yep, I'm good there.
Yep.
Matter of fact, I'm good with all of them the way they are on this section, if that saves you any time.
Anybody else want to comment on this section?
I agree with Mark.
I'm good.
I'm okay with it.
Ricky? Okay, let's keep them all, that whole section's good, yep. All right, we're on to the education part. Anybody have notes on this?
I'm good on that one.
Yep, it's number one. I know from users that it's needed.
The next two we sort of agreed to already.
Yep.
Well, if we're planning on keeping the boys' locker room renovation, now hear my logic out first. The $35,000 for the design, if needed, I would like to cut that out and then try to use current cash from this year's budget, just so that they can get the design done sooner. That way, by the time the bond passes referendum, they'd already have the design in place to go straight out to bid.
They do have money left over from 2 years ago when we did a design, so, which is about 35,000. So I don't know if they need 70,000 for the design, or if, so that's what I would wonder about.
The bond and the capital and the cash are going to be referendum the same day.
Right, but at least what I'm saying is not move it to current cash. I'm saying try to find it in this current budget that we're in now, so that they can just go in and get the design done ASAP, so that by the time the 1.3 million passes, that they'd already have the design ready to go out to bid.
So otherwise, if this, let's say our budget gets approved in May, by the time they get a design and then go out to bid, you're talking next year, where it's possible, to Ricky's point, if we found the money either in capital, not wherever. Right now, we could tell them to go get the design, and the minute that we had it, we can go to bid.
I see.
We gave them design money years ago.
Yeah.
They still haven't used 35,000 of it 2 years ago. They're asking us for $1.3 million of something they've needed and haven't bothered to get the full design on, even though they had the money sitting there. It baffles my mind.
Well, to Marcia's point, we don't know whether or not they need 70,000 for the design or 35,000. I mean, they were asking 100. Well, we offered them 100,000 last year. But I think that, at least we can get that portion of it resolved as soon as possible and just get the design out of the way, so that when the 1.3 million passes, that hopefully by then they'll be with a design in hand or very close to it, so that we don't have to delay the project any further.
I think let's go on to the bigger thing before we spend hours on this one here. What do we feel about the 1.3? I think that's the key that's going to drive this whole discussion anyway. The 30,000 becomes irrelevant at one point. So let's go around the table. Mark, your opinion on the boys' locker room.
I'd like to go last. I don't want to feel like I influence everyone else by always going first.
Ricky, jump in there then.
I'm for it. Paul Checo made me really comfortable with the plan. His response to that, yes, they could go more expensive, but at a higher cost, you wouldn't really get the benefit out of it. And he feels that this 1.3 million covers their minimum needs plus a little bit of nice to haves. So, I mean, I'm for it. At some point, I think you got to let them kind of manage the project. I don't think they want to see it be a poorly planned out project, and I don't think it necessarily is. I think we just had a lot of open questions, and Paul Checo definitely made me more comfortable with the project.
Brianna?
Yeah, I appreciated Paul Checo and everything that he said, and it definitely helped. I think we've been talking about it for a while. I think it needs to be moved along. My question would be because it's over $1 million, it has to be voted on by the town, right? So if we approve it, no. Oh, we have yes or no?
Yes, it has to be voted.
Okay. So the town would have to, the townspeople would be able to vote on this and say, we're okay with this.
Yes, we're just
Okay.
approving it to the point where the town would vote. Yes.
But
And if
they're
the
not
town,
voting on- They don't vote on it separately, do they?
Oh,
This isn't
no,
going to a
the-
special.
part of the
it's
whole
voting on it as part of the budget,
Right.
right?
Right. But
Correct.
it changes our capital though by a lot. This is a big number to move.
Yeah, but people are voting yes or no on this budget as this budget.
Right.
It's not voted on as a standalone budget.
Right. It's not going to be a standalone yes, no on this item, Brianna.
No one's changing their
Oh.
vote on this budget because of the locker room, in my opinion.
okay. Okay. Last year I felt like the items that were presented weren't convincing and there was a lot of holes and there was a lot of I don't knows and yes, nos and maybes. And I feel like when it was represented to us, there was a lot, I felt like they had, again, just like the budget, crossed the T's, dotted the I's. I felt better about it. And I do feel like we do need to move forward on this. And I'm kind of with Glenn, the 35,000 on the design is kind of, a minute point as we're going ahead with the locker room.
Dan?
Yeah, so I'm agreeing with everybody who's spoken so far. Last year, we kicked the can down the road because we didn't have, at least I didn't have faith that there was anything other than back of the envelope numbers here, and it was too big of a number for back of the envelope. I asked Paul flat out what's changed and why is it more definitive this year than last year. I'll be honest with you, I don't have full faith that it is completely definitive. I think that work has been done, but they have to have some leeway to manage this, and it is in desperate need of fixing. So I'm okay.
Eileen? You there, Eileen?
Talking to myself, sorry about that. No, I agree with what everybody else has said. I mean, last year I wasn't comfortable with the plans. I didn't feel like the numbers were solid. And there's a lot of unknowns. I think they have a better plan this year, again, with some unknowns, but it's a project that has to get done and I'd like to see it get started. So I'm in support of it.
All right, Mark, I'll go before you since you wanted to be last. My opinion is that last year the board had a lot of new members. I think this year that they've come around to the point of really tightening down on their numbers, paying attention to the numbers more. I mean, they did not pay attention, but they're really working with us on numbers. And I think that it's something that needs to be done. And I really don't think they're going to let this get out of control. I think this is going to be managed to a point of as best they can. So I'm sort of on board with the majority here. I'm open to be swayed, but I think that they've shown a much more tighter financial structure and we've been included in the meetings. So I feel confident about it. But Mark, go ahead. Your turn.
Probably surprisingly, I'm not going to try to sway anyone's opinion. I have my opinion, the five, you have yours, and I'm one vote. So I don't see it as a project that's had a 2 years or even not a last year's worth of full vetting. I don't think it's ready to come to us. But that's, again, I'm just one person. There's five votes that count. So I guess we have our answer. I'm not going to take about half an hour talking about something that's decided.
All right, let's highlight it for the final review.
No need to highlight it, Glenn. It's 1 on 5.
Mark, I like everybody to have a say and to think about a little bit more. I mean, we don't have to make that decision tonight. It's not a tonight thing. I mean, most of us are for it. I appreciate and respect your point. I just have a feeling about it. I don't know. How's that?
Yep.
All right. The security, I think that's green again, so that means it's already been dealt with. The paving and the concrete, Steve, you guys took out 150,000.
Right. Ralph is very comfortable with that.
Okay.
Sorry, can I just go back to that though? Why is that a lower priority than the air conditioning? I mean, when you look at the detailed sheet, the air conditioning says it can wait. The paving is a health and safety for tripping. But it's a lower priority. So I don't know if anybody else knows why that might be.
It's called shell game. Leaving things at the low number, a high number that they know we have to leave it.
All right, I also forgot, Steve and Marcia, can you guys check on that 35,000 and see where that stands and what we need for a design?
It,
The library.
No, the locker room, line number 118.
oh, the
We don't
design-
really have a clear cut what's left. I mean, we have a clear cut. There's 35,291 left that was prior approved. Is that enough to cover the next level of designs, or do they need 35,000 more, or where do we stand on that? I mean, as to point Ricky's, to move to Ricky's point, is that money that we don't need to use? Is it money that's already done? Do we have a final design that can go out to RFQ?
Yeah, we'll clarify that.
So I think to really firm everything up, Steve, I mean, for me anyway, and I'm actually pro it right now, is can we get a milestone thing of like when the work's gonna be done, when, the 35,000, if it's needed, if it helps out to do it now, to get them to the summertime. Carl mentioned like 45 days, getting quotes. If we got a short timeline, like 4 or 5 bullet points.
Yep. I'll go to them tonight.
Okay, let's go down to middle school. Green, the 55 came out, right? Line 126. Isn't that the redundant item? Am I right or wrong?
You're right.
Okay. Okay. I think that's pretty much it, right?
Mhm.
What do we change totals here? Do we have we
I've
took
been-
out 140?
I've been keeping track. If I got them all right, we took 62.2 out of cash and 98 out of bond. If I got them all
That doesn't,
net, we added some, we took some out.
okay, so we net 140?
150, 160 if you combine the cash and cap and bond in my math.
Why does Marcia have 140?
Oh, boy.
And that's with 55 there.
Yeah, I got the 55.
Okay.
So I got a note
Yeah,
back.
I have utility pickup.
Oh. Yeah. We added in 29 and 63.
Got that.
We took out vehicle stabilization.
Yep.
We took out
Dan, did you
10
take out the 13 for the dump truck?
we did later. We
On
took out,
the dump truck on the building and equipment, wasn't that a reduced, or is that the Bobcat utility? One of them had like an $11,000 replacement.
that's
That
down
wasn't
below,
in-
that's the Bobcat.
Yeah, I have that as 12. Yep.
You have that? All right.
We took out 10 for asbestos.
Yep.
We took out 115 for bonded paving.
Yep.
We we took out 24 for the pickup truck.
Yep.
We put in 225 for the dump truck.
Yep.
We took out 4 for the electric vehicles.
Yep.
We took out 160 for the generator.
Yep.
We took out 20 for the recycling design.
Yep.
We took out 11 for the Bobcat. We took out 33 for the Cadigan netting. We
Yeah,
took out
somebody-
17.5 for the crumb rubber.
Yep.
We started to take out 17 for the staircase, but then we didn't.
Yep.
We took out 55.
Yeah, that number's got to be higher
Yep.
Um,
than the 140.
Those are all the things I have. I can.
So I had a conversation with Chief Purcell, and he's comfortable with using the Police Outside Services Fund for the BOLO wraps.
Yeah, great news.
And I was wrong. It's gone up since the last time. They have 191,000. I thought it was 180.
Anything else in
so-
my paper?
Can
So
they use theirs to get their own Tesla?
Or their rifles?
That's a slippery slope.
so it is probably me here that when I've added the Board of Finance, because these two don't add to that.
Yeah, there's something not right. We took out quite a bit. We didn't add in as much as we took. That I can tell you.
Here it is right here.
Yep.
That the 20,000. That all right.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
So where do we stand now?
Nah, that went the wrong way, Marcia.
Yep.
That I can tell you. You know what, Marcia? Don't do it on the fly.
Yeah.
Don't do it on the fly. I'd rather you not make a mistake
Yeah,
and
that
get it messed up.
Update it.
it's adding in some of my hidden rows there. So, all right, there we should get to your 160. So then the next thing we want to talk about is here is the total for the current year. Do we want to roll in what we have in fund balance? This is what we had at June 30th in fund balance. This is what we approved after June 30th to come out of fund balance. And then I looked when I was balancing out the capital for this year, I had already taken this one out of fund balance, and last fiscal year it was approved July 8th. And I already accounted for it last year, so we don't have to account for it this year. So the question is, in our budget, do we want the 2.3 million, or do we want to make use of the June 30th balance in capital non-recurrings fund balance, which would bring it down to 2.1 million?
And if we
Even
don't
Marcia-
use it, you put it into the general fund?
If I would say if we don't use it, we leave it there.
Yeah.
Would that be our contingency?
We leave it there we could leave it there for future. We could leave it there like we've got that 777 that's in there right now that we thought we were going to move to the general fund to balance this fiscal year, which we talked about last week. I'm recommending we leave that there too.
What is the benefit of leaving it
In the
there?
future, what I'd like to
We
see
can
is
use
what,
it for the debt bubble.
yeah, I'd like to see where we are right now in the overall budget.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. Let's-
Is it feeding over, Marcia, to the,
It doesn't feed over, but I do that manually.
it would be the 2307?
You're
So-
saying we could reduce the cash capital by a couple 100,000 if we use that reserve now into next year's budget.
Correct.
However, if we're comfortable with the cash capital as it stands, we can put that in a side reserve and utilize it to level out the bubble a little bit, or if something comes up.
Correct.
But that was, in the numbers that were previously presented, that was used. So like, right?
Yes, that was being used in the selectmen's budget, yes. This would, the 2.307 would be if we don't use it. And then all subject to me verifying all the numbers. It'd be a 1.51. If we did use it, and I would rather not, but if we did use it, we would be at a 1.26.
Highlight it. I think we got to consume that as a group.
Yeah, I want to marinate on that, talk about that, whatever it is, Thursday or whenever we're doing it.
Explain again the alternatives to not using it to offset this year's cash capital.
So if we don't use it, we could say, oh, next year, we don't get that $1.2 million or $1.6 million premium revenue. We could say, all right, we're going to transfer in 259,000 instead. That would be in the 2023 budget to offset the big bump in debt.
But you already have 700 and something in there.
Yeah, but it's going to be for 3 years, and we've said for a number of years it's coming. We got a plan for it.
Listening to you.
And so far we haven't.
And that could be used for cash capital, Marcia, you saying?
And if we didn't use it, for that, we could say, okay, well, next year we've got it in there and we could use it for cash capital in 2023 that we're, rolling in dough. We don't need it for that. Then we could use it then.
My personal thoughts is, and again, we're going to stew on this, is I think you're going to have $100,000 fuel increase next year that we got to absorb. I think the fuel costs, the savings that we achieved, 38, and I'm sure the school side achieved a lot of savings, the heating fuel savings, and
They
everybody
locked them in, they said.
to the end of the next year's budget. Next year's budget starts new. They ended up, in my understanding was June of 2022. So July starts a new year when the new board votes, and they're going to be in the hole, I think, on those numbers. That's just my 2 cents.
I agree. Everybody should think about this.
So Marcia, go ahead, Steve, sorry.
Thank you. I just think if we really need to be careful to save our pennies and foster our revenue and capital non-recurring so that we can offset some of the bump years, either use it against cash capital or use it to make debt payment. $777,000 is a lot of money plus whatever else we'll have. So
Marcia, I take a little exception when you said we haven't done anything to plan and get ready for the bubble. We have $770,000 set aside.
Well, we don't have that yet. That's if you agree. If we move that into the general fund, I'm just recommending we don't move it into the general fund.
We're talking about two something now.
We're correct. That was the June 30th unencumbered balance. The 770 was separate because we thought we were going to balance this year's budget, and we haven't decided, as far as I know. I recommended that we don't move that into the general fund, but I don't think
this 238 is separate from that 770.
Yes, it is.
Right. So, and to Steve, you've brought up a few times the Iroquois gas is a helpful thing to the bubble. So there is a potential light at the end of the tunnel for that bubble as well. Yes. So I do want to marinate on this 238.
Yeah, I just think we have more options if we don't put it in the general fund, because putting money in the general fund and back out, the rating agencies look at it and say, why are you moving money in and out of your general fund?
Right.
Right.
No. I'm not saying we do that.
Okay,
I agree with you on that.
okay.
So if we, just showing you where it is in last year's financial statement, page 128 of the PDF, that we had the fund balance, it was all committed to different projects up there. So this is the 41,000 we used in 2021 to balance. We didn't fund as a transfer the whole thing. We used up that fund balance. This is the amount for that we thought, and we may still move into the general fund. And then this is what was everything else after that. And most of this came from an old grant from the Still River Greenway that was years and years behind, that finally, with the help of the attorney, we finally got our cash. That's what makes up most of this.
All right, let's stew on that. Let's see where we fall after the final numbers and see what happens. Are we good with all of the capital as we talked about tonight? We have a few to stew on, a few numbers. Can we go back through, Marcia, to the numbers that you highlighted?
Yes.
I think we only had a few just as that were highlighted.
The first was Ebola wrap.
That went away, right? He's gonna use 12,000 of the funds, so that can come off of there.
Utility pickup truck for the fire company.
All right, we can stew on that, right? For come back and when people think about it. The AEDs for personal vehicles. That's strictly for the fire department, Steve, not a police thing. That's strictly fire, correct?
That's strictly fire and for personal vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was more for like not personal vehicles, so.
No, it's not labeled correctly. I checked with Lou Menendez and he told me it's for personal vehicles. All the ones in their fire trucks are good.
Okay. So I feel less, I'm okay with
Yeah,
that.
I'm
Totally okay with that. Now, when it said fire and personal vehicles, I was like, oh, that's important, but I'm okay with it now.
Okay,
I agree with Brianna.
command vehicle, yep, stew on that, the two vehicles, and I think that's it, right, or no? The recycling center, we were gonna
I'm
think
okay.
about,
I'm okay taking that out. I'm more inclined to spend the 30 on the library.
all right, then that can change. All right, so then Steve, I think the only thing left is for us for further review is if you're gonna talk with Paul and the Board of Ed, correct?
Yeah, get a stronger status on where they are, when they.
Steve, you're hard to hear.
Why is that, I wonder? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
A little
So-
bit better.
That's weird. Yeah, to get on the status of where they are, when they can do it, reconfirm that they're comfortable with the numbers. I think they are comfortable with the numbers. And give us a little more coloring on when they would do the project, et cetera, et cetera.
and the
That was-
35,000,
Yeah, and
do
the
they need any money for design or does that 35,000 go away?
Yeah.
Or can it be rolled into the 1.3? Right?
Yep.
All right, I think we're gonna have to meet tomorrow night as a group. We made an agreement to 2.5 hours as a group, I think, when we started this process. Is everybody okay with that? Like, we do it, we come back tomorrow, we have an agenda out there, we come back tomorrow.
Personally, I think we're close where we only need one more night. So that's a decision of do we want to do it tomorrow or Thursday? I like the idea of having a little more time to marinate on things, but I'll go with the group, whatever the group wants.
I agree. I think we're one night away and having a day to review the numbers in full. If Marcia can get out a budget, I think one night and Thursday is enough, is all I would need. But again, that's one
Okay,
of.
Brianna?
Yeah, I mean, I think just having a chance to sit and think about everything we talked about, regardless of if we met tomorrow night, would have to be late. So,
Yeah.
it would be better, for me, I'm happy with Thursday because I have to pick
Okay.
Jake up from a track meet and I don't want to miss anything. It's kind of an important thing.
Eileen,
Yeah, I'm okay with just doing it Thursday. I think one night is all I need.
Ricky,
Same, Thursday's good.
all right.
I want to change mine to, I only want to do it to accommodate Brianna's schedule.
Oh my God, stop.
Do we have any questions then that we need for Steve or Marcia to prepare other than the boys locker room?
No, but I think we should review the open items from the operating so that we can think about those ahead of Thursday as well.
Okay.
Um,
I have one thing on there to start the process. Dan, thank you. Steve, we talked about like the part-timers and for COVID and how they fit in there. Is there any way we can look at reviewing the part-time help in these departments?
Yes, I had a conversation with our town clerk. I would talk to all our managers about where we can possibly save money. Because this is a tough year. It's always a tough year, but with the pandemic, there's a heightened sense of understanding how tough it is. And in talking to all my department heads, the town clerk believes that we could eliminate one part-time job. What we would do is lay a person off and they would be laid off as of July 1st. And that would save us about $24,500. It's not an easy decision to make, but given where we are with this budget and we're trying to get it as low as possible, our town clerk believes she can do a good job with the new staff that she has. She has a whole new staff. They're doing a good job. It's a difficult decision, but we could always at some point, we would keep it under review and see what we're doing. But we could eliminate that part-time position at 20 hours a week. And I think we can continue to provide the services that we need for the town. And that's what I would recommend we do.
Okay, anybody have a comment to that?
for that.
No comments?
I think it's good information.
I think I need to think about that one.
Okay, I mean, that's why Steve,
Yeah.
I asked about it. I asked and brought it up because, again, I was just getting nervous that we have part-time and Steve looked into, ways to deal with it. We brought this up the other night, we brought this up in our meeting. So it's out there for people to think about.
Sure.
And this would be just $24,000.
4,419, I believe it's in the budget for.
Yeah,
Okay.
Still a savings.
Yeah, it's important.
Mhm. Yeah.
We've kicked the can and avoided it, but we've not yet addressed non-union salaries.
I've been swayed on that a little bit. I gotta be honest with you. I think Steve did his homework. The only comment I'll have on it, and I've been swayed, is I don't like the idea of when we give a big bump, double bumping. I struggle with that. Like when we give someone a 10,000 and then we give them an extra bit, but Steve's homework, I chose other towns in mind. Some of the towns were deceiving. They hit them in like Steve pointed out to us, they hit them in the contingency fund until they negotiated. So some of the information I got said 0. New Fairfield actually has an addendum to their budget saying after the budget was presented, we put in 2% for each of our town selectmen and our town employees. When I went through the budget itself again, I'll listen to suggestions, but I'm not nowhere near where I was prior to Steve doing his homework. That doesn't mean I agree with it all the way. I'm open more to, he did the homework. He showed good stats. That's what I was driving for when I pushed this. How's that?
Okay.
So Dan, you want to talk about it?
Are there individuals who are still getting outsized bumps this year? And if so, why?
No, everybody was
Not
brought.
individual positions, not individual people, individual positions.
Now, the Board of Selectmen removed all of those, Dan, all of
Outliers are
the
gone.
Okay.
extra out of it. The only thing that was in there was a couple of them that I brought up of a bigger bump in prior year, and then it's in there. But other than that, it's a standard across the line, everybody. Steve, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Order for everybody. You know, there were a couple of differences. You know, Dan Secor was promoted to Director IT, so we gave him a raise.
Yep.
We did hire Julian, but he's been hired at a lower salary than we were paying the previous purchasing agent. But those are the only two anomalies there, but everybody else is a 2.25% increase.
And I'm completely on board with that. That's a good outcome.
Eileen,
I'm okay with it.
Brianna? Ricky?
I'm good.
Mark?
Yeah, Steve, thanks for doing the homework. We got to let you manage your town and run your town. The one thing I have, and it's gonna, again, not be for this budget, but I'm bringing it up because I've had my mind thinking about it, is elected position salaries.
Yeah.
Again, not for this time. My thought is elected positions should only get salaries on the year when there's an election. This way, there's no conflict of interest of Steve's giving himself a $10,000 raise, not that he has, to be clear, but or his cronies win, or there takes all of that out of it if we look at doing something like that. You in for a position, and that's the salary for that position for your elected term.
We actually did that with Steve.
Yeah, I think
I'm talking about all of them, Glenn, in general,
Yeah.
not for now, not this budget. I'm just thinking of a moving forward.
But if we kicked it out to January, like we did with Steve, do a January 1st start on a pay raise for the elected officials, then it's not for the person, it's for the position.
Right.
Which I
And
think
that was a significant change. My opinion is, I see your point, Glenn, Mark. If we were asking for elected officials to get salary increases over and above what our union was, I'd say, yeah, you got a very good point, and you got to pull that back. But all of our people, we really have some really good employees here. We really do. And when we talk about, it's a pandemic year, people are suffering, people are hurting. I'm getting a little off track here, but I did want to say this, is that we also have to realize that our staff are those people. I know of 2 of our staff whose spouses have lost their jobs. So a 2.25% increase for them is meaningful, right?
I didn't take anything away this year, did I?
Yeah. Yeah, I see your point, Mark.
I'm just purely saying for elected positions, you run for a position, that position has a salary attached to it. There shouldn't, I don't see any reason.
I've been thinking the exact same thing. We get qualified people running, and I think we'll continue to get qualified people running. Hopefully the same people, but
and it doesn't mean that somebody doesn't win and get the bump then, and whether it becomes 5% because it missed out on it, or 4.5% or whatever. I mean, we even it up for election years.
I'm in complete agreement with that.
But again, not this year.
Not this year.
So that was one of the open items, Dan.
Yep. Okay, keep going.
What was another open item we had left open?
The COVID grant idea,
Okay,
something to think about as a potential revenue item. I did more thinking of that. We can discuss it on Thursday, but I might be coming around on that.
now go ahead and throw it out there so we can chew on what your thoughts are for a day.
I think people were throwing out $50,000 as a placeholder and something that was safe to cover. I could get on board with that.
Anybody other have a thought on that?
So I had asked Marcia to come up with a list of some things, and I did not ask you to have it ready for tonight, but if you could have it ready for Thursday's meeting, that might be helpful. Remember, was items that you thought might qualify.
Just thinking about it, like conceptually, if we identify the COVID items as an expense and offset it, it just becomes a net negative, right? Like those COVID items, I'm assuming aren't in the current budget.
They are.
Yeah, they are.
They are. They're expenses.
I think Marcia has it on the screen. So Marcia, why don't you run us through it?
So you asked that we do this. Let me make it bigger for you.
Thank you.
Oh, you went, you dug deep on it. Thank you.
But
Go ahead.
the rules have not been set. So this is just going from what their basic thing is, that we had some actual expenses last year. Each of these with a letter is covered by a grant. Some were not covered by a grant. We have some expenses in this year that some covered by a grant, some not covered by a grant. And then we have potential costs going forward. Finance, the extra labor, the labor attorney doing some work for COVID leaves and things, some IT expenses, the tax collector moved to the cloud, Code Red and Zoom, the election expenses covered and not covered. Candlewood Lake Authority, that whole boat is social distancing and is because of COVID, because of the lake overcrowding. Employee benefits for some of that stuff. Employee benefits, this would be for the new Parks and Rec person. These we posted last year, everything to emergency management, stuff that's all between departments, we do that. So those wages, the front door and the extra cleaning, this is what we're posting to grants right now. Can't remember what that is, but police wages, one of the grants, COVID too, we don't think of them as COVID wages, but they let us use, they said, well, for the CRF #2 funding, you could offset it against police wages. Well, of course we want to do that, so we preserve any other grants. So that's why this is in here. Police extra cleaning and supplies, some more Department of Public Health grants, senior center, the wages, the vaccine wages, library, they have some door monitor wages. We've paid extra. The summary they said would be compared to the 19 budget. Well, we've added about $10,000 in cleaning that we did add it in 20, not knowing about COVID, but the rule said compared to the 19 so far, the rules as we know so far. Library supplies, digital books, couldn't we say those were purchased? These are the two extra monies, extra bumps that we put in their budget. We talked about this morning with some department heads, and Yvonne's got even more ideas, and Mary came back with more ideas, and Ellen came back with more ideas. Parks and Rec wages, grounds, that's the new groundskeeper and the extra overtime. This is the match for the land use. Brookfield recovers. These were covered by donations. We did get them reimbursed and then put that back in there. This is what we've paid out of Brookfield recovers through today. You know, that's all for this whole thing. Could we get that back? The school, in their report, that it shows $304,000 that is their net COVID costs. But so Ken gave me the gross costs before any offsets would have been 516. They're doing a Chromebook lease over 3 years. It's in addition to this. That's $150,000. The cleaning services, the extra cleaning services that they've had. EMS and fire, we approved a small amount, but so they've been made whole for those things.
Hey, Marcia, you more than convinced me. I'm totally on board with adding 50K in.
Well, it might be more than 50. Let's get to a bottom number here.
Well, but
yeah, why don't we just go straight to the bottom then?
Yeah, the revenues, we don't know. They said lost or delayed revenues. Right. Can we reimburse ourselves for the interest?
There you go. There you go, Lucas.
The bottom line is we might have already earned the whole thing.
So this is, before we all start clapping, this is very preliminary.
Yes. And I asked Marcia for pie in the sky, absolute best case scenario. I was never even going to get close to best case scenario. I think I'm more than 50 grand at this point. I'm not a million or not even 500,000, but I'm
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, and we haven't, there are other things, we were talking to Mary today, and Marcia was, we forgot we had extra guards on duty over at Cadigan. We had a monitor at the gate, right? Those things are all, I think, eligible. So we're
And
still.
it very clearly talks about lost revenues.
Yes,
We have.
we have to see how they define that, but we're going to take the expansive view.
Yeah, of course.
Let them turn it down.
Marcia, thank you for this comprehensive list in a day.
All right, I'm gonna throw more of a monkey wrench in this, so that's what I do. Is the library electronic books enough to get them where they want, or do we put more in the budget? And if we don't get this grant, we hold off on that spending.
That's already in the budget. For what was up here was what was already in the budget.
10,000, but they
Yeah,
said they were
10,000.
grossly under, and 10,000 would get them back to a point. Do we put in 20,000? And if we get the reimbursement, we spend it, and if we don't, we push it on to next year.
Yeah.
Or we could always add it back.
I like your idea, Glenn. Put it in there now. Tell them to spend $10,000 to start. We see where we end up, right, with the digital books, and if we can get a grant for it. If we can get a grant for both, then we're all to the good. And if we don't, we put it off to next year.
I'm on board.
think
Right?
that's
I
a
mean,
really good idea.
Utilizing money that's for a purpose, that's a real purpose.
Right, make it
Yeah.
25 grand, whatever.
Yeah,
I mean, does everybody get my thinking, or am I out of the box here?
I do.
I'm
No,
with
I
you.
don't think so.
I mean, it's a legitimate cost that fits in the bucket, and we don't know the rules. Obviously, if we don't get it, we can't spend it. We all agree 10,000 is for now,
Yeah.
but it's grossly underfunded. Is there anything else on that we can review?
Well, I'd like Marcia to send this to me, and the rest of you can speak for yourselves, so I can absorb this over the next 2 days too. Not, and she's the expert, but it's a great tool.
Yeah, and we just don't know that this is just based on their gross discussions.
I am clear on that.
It is pie in the sky, to your comment.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think some of it's real, Steve. I mean, it's
Oh,
pie in the
absolutely.
sky, but I think there's the basis has a lot of real points.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to take my highlighter and highlight things that I read are covered and see where I come in.
Yeah, because in the last storm, we racked up, what, $321,000 in possible expenses, and FEMA knocked us down to almost nothing. But we're good at pie in the sky,
Right.
right? And all they can do is say no.
Right. And do you get 10% of what our pie in the sky is? Who knows? There's some number.
Somewhere in between there. I think somewhere between the 50 and the 1.6.
I will agree. It's somewhere in between there.
That's all I would commit to now. So I'd be comfortable putting a revenue line in for COVID grants, but I wouldn't be real comfortable putting a big number in there at all, because it's just too risky.
Not suggesting anything ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, let's think about it as a group. Dan, since you had the open items, any more you had on that list?
That's all I had, and then just figuring out what our contingency is going to be. That's the only other thing I had highlighted.
Right.
I mean, I'll speak to the contingency and then we can go. And I mean, obviously y'all can. I like the idea where we're at. I think that we've trimmed the Board of Ed budget, or they trimmed it, not us. They actually came in tight, I think. I think Steve's groups have come in fairly tight. We really didn't move a lot out of the operating side of budget of Steve's either, that we need to have a little to fall back on to make sure we could sustain this expense control. I mean, we've done a good job of it. I think the budget process this year was really solid. I think everybody got on board with the philosophy that we were preaching about: come with us with real budgets, as close as you can to the, instead of fluff in the budgets, and everybody streamlined their budgets. They bought into the trust of this Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen that will do the right thing. I'd like to have the money to pay the bills if they do need it. That's my opinion. Mark, we'll go around the table.
Yeah, I'm real close, so I'm happy. I think Steve, the school, everybody did it. Marcia, everybody did a very good job.
Thank you.
Dan, since you're the next that I see in the bubble.
Yeah, no, in concept, I completely agree. I'm going to look at the numbers over the next day, but I completely agree with everything that you've said, and I think that everybody did a wonderful job. I think the boards are working well together, and the fact that there's very little yelling and screaming either among the boards or among the public is testament to that. So I think from a contingency standpoint, in concept, I'm fine. I want to scrub it one more time.
Okay, Eileen, you're next that I could see.
Yeah, no, I think, like everybody said, I think the town and school side did a great job with the budget. I'd like to look at the contingency a little bit more too. And, if we're adding the money back into the Board of Ed, is that coming out of the contingency line item? But yeah, I think we definitely made the progress we need to make a final decision on Thursday.
I think on the Board of Ed money, I think we took out enough out of the operating line or, the cash capital lines to cover the Board of Ed money. I don't think, we took 5,000 here, 10,000 there.
We're net. I think we're net down 19,000 total expenses on the operating from
After adding the 24.
after adding the 24.
Yeah,
Okay.
so the 20, so we're still down a little bit on operating. We covered the Board of Ed.
Right.
Okay.
So Ricky,
I agree with all comments that have previously been stated.
all right, Brianna,
I literally mirror what Ricky just said. Everybody's already said. I think everybody did a great job. I really did. I mean, I think it went fast, and I mean, all the boards kind of came prepared, and the questions were wonderful, and the presentations were great, and I really didn't have a lot to question. I clearly will never question an electric vehicle again. Just gonna throw that out there. But also, otherwise, I think everybody did great.
all right, thank you. Steve, you want to add in? It's your budget to manage.
No, I'm very comfortable with what the Board of Finance has done. I think it's a workable budget. And I thank you.
All right, Marcia, you want to comment?
I've got nothing.
Okay. So takeaways to think about is Steve brought up the part-time reduction of 24,000 because I asked him to look at that again. So that's something we have to bring to the table for Thursday. Capital, just to review and that you can consume the numbers. The revenue line we just talked about on the COVID is another topic to review. So I think tomorrow night we cancel. Thursday night, we start at 7 and we go till we finish, but I don't think we're that far off. Steve, if you could help me out again and send me don't we have to read the resolution as we pass it?
Yep.
For both the capital and if you leave the numbers blank, I could put the numbers in, but
Right.
to make sure that we get the wording right, that would be appreciated for Thursday night.
Will do. And we'll
And you're
get
gonna-
the budget out tomorrow so you can look at it. We'll clean it up.
Okay, and then you're gonna talk to the school again, like we talked about the 35 and get the timeline. Anybody else want to add anything?
No, do we have to make a motion to cancel tomorrow night's meeting? Just out of curiosity, or are we just good at just saying it's canceled and then?
I think that's probably a good idea, that you make a motion to not hold that meeting.
Can't hurt. I mean,
Can't hurt.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we cancel the Board of Finance special meeting for Wednesday, March 17th, 2021.
I second.
I'll second.
I'm sorry.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So Thursday, we will finish up the budget process. We'll stay till we finish. I also agree with what Dan said earlier about we haven't really received any letters from townspeople. Steve, have you received anything that we should be aware of?
No, I didn't even think of that, but usually every year we get a few letters and I haven't received anything.
The only correspondence I received was in support of the $30,000 for the library, which we tackled tonight. So
I
Bribe
think,
Dan Secor to jam all of the meetings so nobody can actually watch them. So we're good.
So I think we're on the right page if the townspeople haven't really reached out to Steve or myself or anybody. So I think we're in the right place to put it to the town vote. So we'll clean it up Thursday and move it forward, correct? Everybody good?
I'm good.
All right, I'll ask for public comment.
I don't even see any public on this. Oh, it was good. Dan says we had 17 people watching tonight, so there's people still watching live too. It's good.
All right,
Good.
so no public comment. Who wants to close us out tonight?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Do we have a
I'll
second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Night, folks.
See you guys Thursday.